It's here, a box from Jegs. This is the line lock system and the mounting kit that goes with it. I'm gonna do a dry fit on my Wilwood master brake cylinder and see how this is all gonna fit. I'm gonna do it right here on the bench right now. Let's go. You're watching On the Mark with Mark. Okay, let's see what we have here. Nice Jegs sticker. Of course, flyer, looks like it's Christmas. All right, and here we go. Stage Control 2, stainless 4-port control valve. Ah, there it is. Okay. It's a little smaller than I had imagined. Got some instructions. Okay. Looks good. All right. Let's see what it comes with. Bulb. I might use that. I might not. A little bit of mounting hardware and a couple of plugs. Looks like pipe plugs and some other screws. A fuse. Let's see what it is. It's a 5-amp fuse, so we can put a 5-amp fuse on there. This is very neat. Let's see this. Okay, this could slide on a gear shift lever. Oh, that's got a nice click to it. And of course, then that wire would go to controlling things. And there's Shelly. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you made it. And, oh, it's got some heft to it. That's nice. 2 wires on that. And looks like 3-hole mounting. Good looking stainless steel here. All right, let's take a look at the other box. Oops. Control valve, okay. This was the main thing I was after. Really like the idea that I can mount this thing right under the master cylinder. So that should be good. Some more instructions. And also, boy, look at the job they did of bending this. That ought to be cool. Let's see if that fits. Now, I'm not doing the factory master cylinder, so there's a chance that that won't fit. And we've got a bunch more fittings. This is more, this is brake line type fittings mostly, but some, looks like mounting hardware to actually mount this guy to this plate. Okay, that's what came with it. All right, let's take a close look. For those subscribers that are not into cars as much as I am, and probably most of you, I want to explain what line lock is before we go about doing this. Now, here's how it's going so far. So this is partway into the video, but I wanted to put this at the beginning so that you would know what I'm up to today. What this is this is an electric solenoid, and the brake fluid passes through this solenoid, well, through a port that's got a plunger in there. And as long as the solenoid doesn't have any power going through it, the brake fluid flows through it just normal. You got regular brakes, no problem. What the deal is with this, you apply electricity to this using a nice little button that it came with, and it fires a solenoid in there and it blocks off the flow of brake fluid through this side. Now this side is going to get plumbed to the front brake lines. So here's what you can do, and this is not just for manual transmissions, although typically that's where you see it. It can be for an automatic transmission too. But what you do is you stomp your foot down on the brake hard, and then you push the button and the solenoid fires. Now, it has blocked off the passage for the brake fluid to move. It's already pushed into the front calipers. Now you can take your foot off the brake. The rear calipers let go and the brake fluid returns to the master cylinder. The front calipers can't do that. So the front brakes are held on. Now with your foot off of the brake, you can get on the clutch. And it's called line lock, and it's called roll control, and I think there's one more name for it too. But anyway, where it was kind of invented was for drag racing. You pull up to the line, you get lined up just right, you stomp on the brake, you push a button, and now you can let off the brake and you start feathering the clutch, or maybe you're even on the gas with an automatic transmission. And as soon as that light turns green, boom, you let your finger off of that thing, and now the car is launching. It's kind of a manual launch control. With a manual transmission, you'll be slipping the clutch, maybe just burning the hell out of it, and then you want to kind of time it pretty close. And then as soon as that turns green, your finger is off there and your foot is off the clutch, and you're just launched. That's one use for it. Another use is, let's say you're not real used to a manual transmission and you're parked on a steep hill and the light turns red, and now you're stuck there. Well, you can put your foot down on the brake, push the launch control, take your foot off the brake, and you can be on the clutch, and you're waiting for the traffic light to turn green. And when it does, you can feel the clutch, it's grubbing a little bit. You let your finger off of there, get a nice run right up the hill. No rolling back or killing it. It does take a little bit of coordination and work, to get that button right. And still, you got to be able to feather your clutch right. So that's the second use for it. The third use for it, who would have thought of this? You can lock up your front brakes like that, and you can get on your clutch and you can hit it hard, and you can actually break your rear tires loose. Now your front end is stopped, but your back end is spinning the tires, and you can do these massive smoke shows there. And then once you get the thing wound up pretty good, then you can let your finger off of there, and the spinning tire really doesn't have a lot of traction. So you'll kind of just slowly, and maybe you'll even do a little bit of sliding, and you can lay these just beautiful burnout marks on the road there. Plan on doing that right in front of my house, and my driveways, and maybe in my garage. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, it's a little hard on tires, so that's the other thing. But it just sounds like a lot of fun to me. So that's one of the reasons why I've always wanted to get this on my car. So we'll get it going, won't we, Shelley? Now there's two studs that come out of the vacuum diaphragm that this mounts to in the car. And this bracket mounts on the end of those two studs there. So just for the purposes of this dry fit, I'm going to bolt this to my master cylinder here so that everything is in exactly the right place. So then we can check out the fitment of this nice hose here. I guess that's not a hose, that's a line. So let me get some hardware. Okay, so here's some decent hardware. Now remember, this is just for my dry fit. So I got that. That is not coming down flat there. This little gusset that's on there is interfering with this nice bracket. This is aluminum, which is nice. Stainless steel sure would have been nice. Hopefully that's not hanging out there too much and vibrating too much. We'll see what happens. Well, now I've kind of scuffed up my new Wilwood master cylinder. I think I'm going to have to, God, I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to file off a little bit of the inside of this to get this thing fit flat on there. Just a little bit like that. And I tried to make that all very smooth so that there's not an inside corner where a crack could start and possibly break this. Okay, one side done, now I'll do the other. Okay, I've got both sides with a little dimple coming in there, and let's have a look and see. It's fitting nice and flat, and you can see it goes right around that gusset there. So that's a much better fit. I kind of hated to do that, you know, that did weaken it in an important area, but I kept everything nice and smooth, so hopefully that won't be a problem. Also, while I had the files out, I have deburred this thing. Just had a little bit of sharp edges on it in a few places, and I'm going to paint this thing some satin black or something, because I really like it to just disappear underneath of my master cylinder. I don't want it to be real obvious that is under there, and then this will be underneath here, so there's not really a lot showing. Okay, bolted on just for dry fit, and I just finger tightened those. That's good, and we got a good flat fit on that now. I don't know if you can see this area here or not, but well, see how nice and brought together those two surfaces are. So that's great. All right, here's the hardware that came with the bracket. Kind of like this bracket. Look at how it helps my master cylinder stand up. It was flopping around. So there's a few actual brake fittings in here, and this is actually nice stainless steel hardware. It's even an elastic stop nut, but I'm seeing something here. Oh, for well, all right. That's the jig part. This is their bracket, and that's the hardware they sent with it. Damn it. It's even nice hardware too, stainless steel. There's stainless steel washers in there too. All right, I'll take a look and see if I've got something decent around here. Those who know me know that I practically have an entire hardware store in my shop. So yes, I do have decent hardware, and I even have the elastic stop nuts and I've got stainless steel washers, but none of the other parts are stainless steel. These have that, I'm not sure what kind of plating that is. I want to call it zinc, but that's not zinc. I'm not sure what that's called. At any rate, we can continue on. Now I'm trying to follow the instructions here, and I have not really looked at the instructions for the Wilwood master cylinder, but it's got 2 ports on this side and 2 ports on that side. So I'm pretty sure I only need 2, so probably 2 of those get blocked off. So I'm holding this in the same orientation as the instructions here. So I'm going to come off of this side. The only reason I'm concerned about that is because I'm going to mount this in the same orientation. You know, could go this way or it could go that way. And that might all end up getting turned around. I don't know. But we're going to bolt it on here and see how this looks. Okay, bolted on, but not to my satisfaction. My bolts are not long enough to actually engage the nylon there, so these won't be able to be used. But that gives me an excuse to go out and buy some good stainless steel hardware. The piece of hardware supplied actually fit pretty good. For some reason, they decided to make the 2 outside holes larger than these 2 slotted holes inside, so that bolt fit in there pretty good. Also, you might have noticed I had to take this back off the master cylinder because I couldn't get in on this with my nut driver here. Here's the orientation on the instructions. Let me move my hand. And here it is, tilted about the same way. So let's say, oh, look at that. It's looking like maybe. Oh, big swing and a miss. Wait a minute. No. It goes into a port on the bottom. It's supposed to go in down here. Now there's a 90-degree fitting. Like I said, we're just doing a dry fit here. So this goes on. 90-degree fitting coming out the bottom. Goes to here, makes these turns. Goes into the back port. I got the 90-degree fitting in the bottom. Got this hooked onto here. Make that turn, that turn, that turn, and not quite. All right. And also, they supplied this fitting here, which the brake line fitting screws into, but this does not screw into the Wilwood port here. So there's a different reducer that I'm going to need. So I'll be able to bring this into the auto parts store with me, well, and my brake line, and buy the one I need for that. So that's not a big deal. This doesn't surprise me. I really would have been surprised and impressed. Jag had that actually fit, and maybe there is a difference between this Wilwood master cylinder and the factory one, which I don't have anymore. I've sold that, so it's gone. So I can't even compare it that way. But bending brake line is not really a big deal. In fact, I think it's kind of fun. So I'm going to be bending a new brake line. I think also, look at how far out that sticks there. That seems kind of crazy. I mean, I think I'll try to make mine a little more trim, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, a decent start. Let's do some other fooling around with this thing. Just for grins, I hooked up the light bulb that it came with. I don't know if I'll use this or not, but kind of a neat thing. It does work. I've got my battery eliminator set on 12 volts, and I've hooked up the solenoid, and I've got the switch wired in here. So I should be able to push this button and we can hear the solenoid fire. So here we go, test one. That's not as loud as I thought it would be. I don't see any of these passages getting blocked. But maybe there's something in there. This is doing something. There might be a manifold inside of there. Sounds like a good click. Anyway, that little bit was fun. All right, I want to plumb from here to here. And to get into here, here's my brake line, and of course, that doesn't go into there. So I don't know what Wilwood was thinking I'd do there. So I went to 3 different parts stores, and I found this part here. And it's got, I'm not sure if that's the right end there or not, but it does screw into here. And it does have the right threads for this end here. So that screws into there. But I'm very suspicious of this union right here between that. And while I was at the parts store, I was thinking, what did Wilwood expect me to do there? And then I remembered, oh, they gave me a whole box of fittings. And in that box of fittings was this. Who'd have thought? So let's get this open and we'll see what can help us here. All right, but it looks like a crush washer. And these guys, look at that. Imagine that. I bet that screws right into there. Who'd have thunk it? One crazy thing, I was looking at this, and the hole that the brake fluid actually travels through out to the brake calipers is not centered in that hole, which I thought was really crazy. And when I was showing the gal at the parts counter that, asked her, is that, I mean, that bottoms out in there, but isn't that, I mean, that seals around the edge. Isn't that like blocking off half of that hole? What the heck is what the heck is Wilwood thinking? Well, they got their hole in the middle. I don't know. It seems like there ought to be an O-ring around this flat surface here, because this is nice and machined right here. Does that actually bottom out in there? I don't know. Maybe I'll look through the instructions on here. So what you do is there's an aluminum crush washer that goes on here. So that is the surface that the brakes seal on, not bottoming out with that little hole. So there's a little chamber back there, and that brake fluid is allowed to move down and go through that little off-center hole there. Also, this master cylinder has provisions for ports on both sides. Depending on how your car is laid out, you can use either side. So I guess I better go take a look and see which side I need to use. But anyway, on the side you don't use, it came with these plugs here, and he put another crush washer on there, and these get torqued to 25 foot-pounds with a small layer of lithium grease on the threads, probably just to give you a good torque reading there. Oh, it also came with a bench bleeding kit here. The ports I'll be using are the ones on the left side. So if I was sitting in the driver's seat, the lines all come in on this side. This side is the engine side, and you've got exhaust manifold and other things, other obstructions you don't want to have to mess with brake lines on. The factory had it on this side. So I'll be plugging the ports on this side, and then I'll put my ports that'll take the brake line on this other side. I've got lithium grease in this little syringe here. This was just in a little tub, like in a little quart tub, and it's kind of hard to manage that way. So I kind of like this little applicator. And I'm just going to put on enough to get all the way around here, not a lot. So here we go. This could contaminate the brake fluid if it gets past this port. So there it is, just a little bit. Okay, before I really tighten down, yes, this is still open. This is the side we're going to be using. This is the side to be plugged. That feels good. Here's my other one. I already have the crush washer on there, so that's good. Let's get a little grease on this one. That grease may just be there to prevent galling while tightening this down, which would prevent us from getting an accurate foot-pound reading. Although I am not going to use a torque wrench because I'd have to go all the way out to the garage to get that. And 25 foot-pounds is not a lot. My lever is about 6 inches long, so I need to get about 50 foot-pounds on there. So that isn't too bad. I use my left hand so I don't overdo it. Let's see, what does 50 feel like? About there. Okay. And 50. Ooh. I wonder what that was. Felt like it was kind of stripping. Ugh. Well, I stopped right there. Okay, now the sad thing is this really fancy bit of brake line bending that they did, which was one of the reasons why I bought this. This does not line up right for anything, and still, well, this actually was for the factory master cylinder, so that might be why it doesn't line up. I would have really probably been more surprised if it had lined up. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to double check to make sure which port we bring the pressure from the master cylinder into our line lock solenoid. All right, so the front port here is the port that's designed to require the most fluid, because my front brakes have 6 calipers, 6 pistons on them. This is the one that needs to go to the front. So this is the front, so that's what's going to go through here first. And it's this port right here. It's marked with the letter M right there. So that's where we're trying to go. We got a target and we got a starting point. So we're going to build a short brake line from there to here. Well, let's get one of these on here too, so we really do have our target. And we'll verify that this, holy crap. Oh, there's a couple of different sizes. Fortunately, I only need 2. So that's an alternate. Here, this is the size I'll be using. That screws right in there. And then what that does, this is designed to work with a double flare here, and I've got a kit right here that can make double flare ends, so I'll be able to cut this and then re-flare it. And then if you look in the bottom of this, it's got a shape in it that just exactly accepts that double flare right down in there, and then the nut itself drives against the double flare and pushes it down there, and then there's a bit of a crush that happens there and gives you a really good seal. So I ought to put this on. I might as well put both of these on. Now, the other thing we have here is this is a 90-degree fitting, and it's got that same shape in the bottom that will accept this brake line. Got a bunch of dirt in there too. And we can use that to get a 90 right off the bat here. Otherwise, we'd have to come out of here and do a 90, and it would just take up more room. So I am going to take advantage of this. Since this is a pipe thread, I'm going to put Teflon pipe seal on this, being careful not to let any of it get into the side where the brake fluid will be. So none of that is in the area where it could get to the brake fluid. And that will go right on here. Okay, since we're going to here, I want to be coming frontwards off of here. Dug into the brass a little ways. That's okay. All right. So that guy's on there now, pointing in the right direction. Here is the method that I like to use for bending brake line. Now this is really short little distance I got to travel here, which makes it just kind of fun. It would have been neat, and I was looking at this and I thought, well, maybe I can modify this a little bit and get it to work, and it almost looks like it could. You know, if I put this on, if I could get this to turn around and go the other direction, but it's actually not as easy as it looks because it's a little bit up from where it is here, and once you bend this, you really shouldn't bend it again. So maybe if I shortened this, I might have enough. I'm gonna try it. I think I might be able to make this work. Well, this idea won't work because in order to get this distance here short enough to go in here and be able to have enough to make this next turn, I can't get my flaring tool on there. There's just not enough room with this in place to get on there to get the double flare to go. Now I could put the double flare on there as long as I leave the nut off, but that doesn't really work very well. So it took me cutting that off of there to figure that out, but that's not a big deal. That gives me another spare one of these, so that's nice. Okay, back to plan A. And this is something I learned from another YouTuber on bending brake line. And what you do is you get a piece of wire. This happens to be part of a clothes hanger, but you could use a piece of welding rod, it doesn't matter. What you want to do is you're going to build a pattern from your starting point to your ending point. And the first time I did this, I was very careful to put in these nice radiuses that my radius tool could reproduce, and I spent quite a bit of time on that. And then when I went to actually make the copy, because this is just the kind of, well, it's like a pattern, I realized that's not necessary. What you're trying to get here is how far, what kind of an angle, and then what direction. So I'm going to start off down here, and I'm going to go in just right there. And now I need to be able to leave enough on there that I can get my flaring tool on with the nut on there. So here's the other side, and you can see it's about, I don't know what you want to call that. It looks like about an inch is the minimum length that I can have. Okay, so in fact that is what I want, is a minimum here. So I'm going to ballpark an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter. I got to have a little room for that actual double flare to happen. So I'm going to come out here. Now of course the first bend is easy. I'm putting a 90 in here, and now it comes out of here. Okay, if I wanted to, I could come over here at an angle like that. I might. I'll have to think about that. But then what I need to do, if you look here, let me turn it this way. I'm coming out this way, and then you can see where I'm coming up here, and this is where I'm trying to go. So I've got to make a jog here somewhere to get into that. So I got to come back, looks like about an inch again. That might be tough to make. Let's see. No, I'm out here. Yeah, I got to have room to be able to get 2 radius bends in there. You know, that might be a good reason to come out here and go straight. It looks like up here, but actually we're going down. Maybe come up here and then turn and go this way. Actually, I'm getting the same 2 turns right here. There's 90 degrees from each other. Maybe what I'll do is start in the middle, and I'll see how close together I can get 2 bends at 90 degrees from each other. And then I can have one coming out of here and then doing the 90 like that. And then wherever this one ends up, I'll make up for it in the length down here. I think that's probably going to be my best bet. So that's kind of weird. Start in the middle. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so here's how my template worked out. Now, after I talked about that's the cat. After I talked about not worrying about the radiuses, I came up with a way of making a radius on here that is pretty close to what my bending tool does. And now this has given me a distance off of here, so I can start that, and then what I'll do is I'll start from this end, I'll put this radius in, I'll put this one in as close as I can, I'll come down, and I'll be able to nail right where that needs to be, and then we'll see what I'm left with down here for this length. And then this is where I'll cut off and make the adjustment so that it's in the right place here. So let's see how this goes. I'm only leaving that nut on there in the outside chance that works out to be the right length overall. So let's see how this goes. Sorry if I'm not giving you the best angle on this. Trying to do this. Okay, that looks like my length, and it looks like, nope, there. That looks good to me. Okay, now I'm going to pull this around, keeping that out of the way. Let's see how this works. Coming around to 90. It doesn't look like 90 to me. We'll go a little further. A little more. There we go. That looks like 90. All right, let's see how it looks. That's not a bad bend. It's not crushed on the inside. So we've got this. This is what we're looking at right now. This goes this way. And it looks like it's a little long. So we may end up, well, I'm going to have to probably cut off the end of that double flare and make a new one on there. And man, I'm only long by about, gosh, we might be able to be fine with that. Let's just wait on that. All right, now we've got to come down, not like that. We've got to come straight down, and we're going to do that as close as we can to this first bend here, but it just goes in that direction. Right, Shelley? You okay with that? You aren't? Well, that's too bad. Okay, so the bend. All right, let's get this right. If I hold it this way and get this over here, yeah. It's like that, but I need to, just gonna barely be on this stop here. And here we go. Up. Oh, slipped right off of there. Okay, a little further back. Here we go again. Oh, it's pulling it. Huh. Well, let's push it out a little ways. Pulling it, pushing it out. Pulling it, pushing it out. All right. Pulling it up, pushing it back. Okay, looks like I kind of missed my 90 a little bit too. Come on now. Stay in there. All right. Well, that wasn't easy. I kind of scuffed my rust-proof coating on there too, which I hate, but that's the way it went. All right, let's put this back on here and see where we are. Okay, looks like we kind of missed our 90-degree down, but you know what? We can feddle this a little bit. All right, now we just need to make another 90 degrees and come back up. So this is where our template's going to come into play, because now I know I'm out here. I know how high I am, and I know where this bend has got to end up. All right, and now because of the way my bender is here, it's showing me right where that bend is going to end up. And I just need to be careful this way so that I'm going in the correct direction. And let's get back here. All right, it looks like right there. Okay, let's try this. Get out of the way. There we go. Okay. Looks like we're back a full 180. Let's take a look. Okay, looks kind of crazy. Here, I'm going to screw this back into here. And, okay, we're pretty close. See that? Pretty close. Looks like I missed it a little bit if you look at it right there. So let's give it a little twist there. A little more. Okay, now this 180 is pretty close to being an actual 180. All right, so this distance is looking better and better. When I say this distance, I mean this distance. And then this one here, I just need to shorten. which is good because I just can't stand these huge threaded fittings for brake lines. Why do they make them that long? I mean, even this is too long. There'll be half of these threads will be sticking out. Imagine how much of this thread is sticking out. Why do they make these so long? I've never seen one of these get buried. Anyway, so I'm going to cut that off. I just need to get a good measurement as to where. Okay, my double flare clamp is a bit aggressive here, really kind of tore things up a little bit, but I have a good double flare there. So make sure there's nothing inside there, so that looks good, and this will come in right on there. Should get a good seal, and I was able to get rid of this stupid one. I just hate these. So here we go, first test fit. You'll see if I failed or succeeded here. So I'm gonna screw it back on this side like I've had it, and it's maybe a little bit off, but I think it's within, you know, easy bending. You can see about how far off it is there. So if I come down a little bit, let's try the other way. Let's hook up this side first and see what we see. Looks like if that's seated all the way, we kind of missed it a little bit here. See that? Okay, so yeah, maybe that's tipped out a little ways. Let's try pulling this back a bit, like that. Pulling it back a little bit. Here we go. We're gonna get a little more aggressive there. Okay, I'm not liking what I'm seeing at all. Looks like I may have to pick up another piece of brake line here. I don't know. Maybe that's not too bad. If it looks straight down on it, it's kind of good. You know what I need is another one of these 90s right there. Boy, come out of there. I don't know, I'll think about that. Actually, the more I look at this, the more I like it. See it from the side here. I don't know if you can see how that looks, and then this is the angle it'll be seen from most, looking straight down on it. I'm gonna think about that a little bit. We do have another little job here. While I was out looking for fittings for here, I stopped at the hardware store and I got some of the exact right hardware for mounting this side right here. So I'm gonna put those on, which means I'm probably gonna have to take it off of the body there, but we'll see. Let's see what we do. I decided I was not happy with the way that looks, so I went and bought another piece of brake line. I'm gonna take another attempt at it, but before I did, I decided to see if I could salvage what I already have. So I just cut off a little bit of each end because that seemed to be what the issue was. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but the issue is these two bends are too close together. And you can see how this is tapering up, and there's not much I can do about that. This, when I first put this together, I had to push this bracket down right here to get it to go together. Then after I got it together, I pulled it back up, which just put this nasty looking bend in it. And I tried to salvage it, but like I said, these two bends are just too close together. So I'm going to take another shot at it and see how it goes. You've already seen me bend it wrong, so I'm gonna do the bending off camera and we'll see how it turns out with my second stab at that. This piece of brake line was like $5. That doesn't bother me too much. Here's where the issue was. This is too narrow. This needs to be out about another 1/4 to 5/16. So here's my second attempt at that bend. Yeah. I must like that distance because this one turned out exactly the same. So, try number 3. Okay, got my new one here. Got the bigger distance on there, so that's great. And no. Did I start out saying I liked bending brake line? After cutting a few ends off and a few failed attempts right there, nice and square. Nice and square. Nice and square. That's more like it. Also, you may notice I've got the stainless steel hardware on there now. So this is ready for installation on the car. This little assembly here is all done. The rear brakes will plumb right here, and then there's some plugs, and one of these 3 ports here will go to the front brakes. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to have to look at the manual for the solenoid here. They did supply the plugs where you block off the ones you're not using. I think they all 3 are going to the same, coming from here, and it's just whatever fits your application the best. So that should be pretty nice. Kind of like how Wilwood did this here, where they made it so you could go on either side, but you get to choose, and then they give you a plug. I wonder if that's for European cars. If it's a right-hand drive, you might, flip it the other way. I don't know, just a possibility. So isn't that wonderful? So if you ever need any help with brake lines, don't call me, because unless you have a lot of brake line, then I might be able to get what we need in the end. But it actually took me 4 tries to get it. But boy, I am way happier with this than I was with the original bend I made. One of the things that was happening with that original one was, in order to get it to fit this bracket, well, it must have got a little bit bent before, but I'll probably push that up a little bit. That should be more parallel. But in truth, it's going to be like that. Another thing is, I'm going to disassemble this again, and I'm going to paint this aluminum bracket black here so that it just blends in better. Which brings me to possibly my next project, which is right here in my basement workshop. That's an exhaust hood that was over our stove when we moved in here. And I saved the thing because it's actually a very good exhaust hood. The air blows through a squirrel cage fan and never comes in contact with the motor. And if you look right here on the wall, there's a window right here. This window looks out under our deck, and it is completely rotten off on the other side. Here's a picture. You can see how it's loose, and the top left corner has just come away. And I crammed this piece of foam in here, and that seals it up really well. But what I want to do is just build a small, a little bit of an exterior wall there, and I'll put some siding on the other side. And when I do, I want to mount this little exhaust hood right in this area here. And then it'll have a port going through that little bit of wall right there, so that I'll have a little platform here, and I'll be able to spray paint things down here in my basement shop and still get good exhaust so that the house doesn't smell like paint fumes. So that may be coming soon. I don't know if it'll be the next video or not. But anyway, that's something I have planned and would be nice for the winter when I don't like to, it's not a good idea to be out in the cold painting. Thanks for watching my video on the Wilwood master cylinder with the Jegs roll control on their supplied mounting bracket, which I thought turned out all right. And fourth try was the charm on that little bit of brake line there. So actually, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. If you're doing this project yourself and you're anything like me, buy plenty of brake line. That's what it took. I kind of have the same rule with wood and woodworking. I can make some pretty nice stuff if I've got enough wood, because there's going to be some mistakes. But you know what? I just kept going through that. I just kept moving forward. Frustration was waiting for me, but I refused to meet with frustration. So I just kept moving forward and accepted the little failures as they came. But I never gave up and just kept doing it. And you know what? I ended up with a good product here. And fortunately, I had enough brake line to get this all done tonight. So maybe it was fun. It's hard to say. But anyway, I'm real happy with how this turned out. We'll get this mounted on the car in a future video. I hope you watch that. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and you can watch me continue on with my Corvette build and the bleeding of the brakes and mounting of this thing is coming soon. However, it is getting cold outside, so we'll see how it goes. I think it could happen this year. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Good.